Our first lesson is from the wisdom of Solomon. God did not make death, and God does not delight in the death of the living. For God created all things so that they might exist. The generative forces of this world are wholesome, and there is no destructive poison in them, and the dominion of Hades is not on earth. For righteousness is immortal, for God created us for incorruption, and made us in the image of God's own eternity. But through the devil's envy, death entered the world, and those who belong to his company experience it. Hear what the Spirit is saying to God's people. Thanks be to God. Your steadfast love, it never ceases. Your compassion never ends. God, your steadfast love never ceases. Your compassion never ends. They're renewed every morning. Great is your faithfulness. You're everything we need. We trust you completely. You're good to those who seek you with all their hearts. Your steadfast love, it never ceases. Your compassion never ends. It's good to wait patiently for you to save us, to learn how to carry heavy burdens while we are young, to sit alone in silence and seek your will, to fall flat on our faces and still have hope, to learn how to handle the abuse and scorn of others. Your steadfast love, it never ceases. Your compassion never ends. Why? Because we know that you will not forsake us. You will have compassion on us. Your loving kindness is steadfast and abundant. You do not delight in making us suffer, nor causing us grief. Your steadfast love, it never ceases. Your compassion never ends. Our second lesson is from 2 Corinthians. Be the best in this work of grace, in the same way that you are the best in everything, such as faith, speech, knowledge, total commitment, and the love we inspired in you. I'm not giving an order, but by mentioning the commitment of others, I'm trying to prove the authenticity of your love also. You know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. Though he was rich, he became poor for your sakes, so that you could become rich through his poverty. I'm giving you my opinion about this. It's your advantage to do this, since you not only started to do it last year, but you wanted to do it too. Now finish the job as well, so that you finish it with as much enthusiasm as you started, given what you can afford. A gift is appreciated because of what a person can afford, not because of what a person can't afford, if it's apparent that it's done willingly. It isn't that we want followers to have financial ease and you financial difficulties, but it's a matter of equality. At the present moment, your surplus can fill their deficit, so that in the future, their surplus can fill your deficit. In this way, there is equality. As it is written, the one who gathered more didn't have too much, and the one who gathered less didn't have too little. Hear what the Spirit is saying to God's people. Thanks be to God. The Holy Gospel according to Mark. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered around him, and he was by the sea. Then one of the leaders of the synagogue, named Jairus, came in, and when he saw him, he fell to his feet and pleaded with him repeatedly, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, so that she may be made well and live." So he went with him, and a large crowd followed him and pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years. She had endured much under many physicians and had spent all that she had. And she was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. For she said, "If I but touch his cloak, I will be made well." Immediately, her flow of blood stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. Immediately aware that power had gone forth from him, Jesus turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my cloak?" And his disciples said to him, "Well, you see the crowd pressing in on you. How can you say, 'Who touched me?'" Jesus looked all around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling. She fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." And while he was still speaking, some people came from the synagogue leader's house to say, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the synagogue leader, "Do not be afraid, only believe." He allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And when they came to the synagogue leader's house, he saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he entered, he said to them, "Why do you make a commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. And he put them all outside. And he took the child's father and mother and those who were with him, and went in where the child was. Taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, get up." And immediately the girl stood up and began to walk about. She was 12 years of age. At this, they were overcome with amazement, and he strictly ordered them to tell no one that they should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. The Gospel of our Lord. Praise to you, O Christ.